Very good day to everybody. Today, a very special moment that we are going to interview somebody important from USA. And this person is very unique to humankind because he has found something so important to us. And today I have a luxury to interview him. Before I start the conversation with him, let me express some overview about him and us in Be International. Be International strives to develop long-lasting and authentic relationship with great minds and scientists. We always believe that only through great scientists and great minds we can come up with a superb products. And this time, we are working with a world-renowned Nobel laureate, Dr. Murad, and is one highly respected researcher and an international renowned authority on the biological effects of the molecule nitric oxide, and with whom Be International has formed a long-term partnership. Dr. Murad has had a long-standing relationship with Be International since its formations. The product Be Fuel was designed in collaboration with Dr. Murad and is based on Dr. Murad's award-winning research on nitric oxide. Dr. Murad has supported us very much on a promotional program on the Be Fuel drink mix since Be Fuel was introduced to the market. In the year 2018, Dr. Murad provided us with an audio recording portraying the benefit of Be Fuel. Again, in the year 2018 itself, Dr. Murad met with me in San Francisco, in the USA, in the University of San Francisco. During that meeting, a special video session was held. I believe a lot of people have watched that before, and recorded with myself and Dr. Murad discussing about the importance of nitric oxide in the human body. In 2019, Be International had a great privilege of hosting Dr. Murad. He flew all the way from USA to Kuala Lumpur and Singapore to give his opinion about nitric oxide in a lot of functions that we held in Malaysia and Singapore. And of course, there's one special one. We have a conference with academics and press at National University of Malaysia. And that was very beneficial. Many people have learned a lot from Dr. Murad. And we definitely hope Dr. Murad will visit us again in the near future when this pandemic has settled and life has returned back to normal. Once again, I'm very happy to invite Dr. Murad on board today. And I have the luxury to interview him. And the title of interview today is Nitric Oxide, NO for your new norm. So let us begin the interesting interview today. Dr. Murad, the question one that I would like to seek your opinion is, what are the unforeseen health problems that are imposed upon us during this current pandemic? What are the underlying root cause of these indicated health problems? Would you like to share with us?
I think this pandemic has been very unfortunate. It really has created lots of problems. The virus is a very complicated one. It's a coronavirus. It's a relative of SARS virus, but it's not the same. It's genetically different. It's behaving unusual. We don't have experience with this kind of virus previously. So we're having to do a lot of research, and we're doing it very, very quickly to get the answers because we need drugs and we need vaccines. There's the expectation that by the end of this year, we will have several ways to treat it. Shortens the hospital stay of patients receiving it. There are steroids now being used. Dexamethasone, an old drug, decreases the inflammatory responses with the virus. And we're now beginning to use plasma from patients who've had the coronavirus and they're immune. So we take their plasma and give it to very sick patients in the hospital. So we have several ways to treat, and it's better, but it's not curing the disease. We need a prevention with a vaccine. And it's been estimated now that there are probably about 19 universities and companies working on a vaccine. And we're hopeful that by the end of this year, and certainly by the early part of 2021, we'll have a vaccine. Yeah. I think the question will be, which companies are going to be most successful? What will be the prevention? Will it be 50%, 70%? For a good vaccine, if it's for flu, we usually say 50 or 60% is adequate. For this virus, we hope we can be higher with 80 or 90%, but we don't know until we do all the experiments with clinical studies. So it's going to be a while before we have the answers. The question is, can patients get it again? And there now have been several patients who had the virus, became negative, went home, and weeks or a month later got the virus a second time. So it appears that the immunity that you develop with the antibodies to the virus once you have the infection may not last for a long time, may not be effective. So we don't have the answers yet. A lot of unanswered questions, very important questions we haven't really figured out yet. The patients who are most susceptible have been people in prisons where they're crowded, a lot of people together in close areas, in nursing homes where people visit, the help in the nursing homes get the virus and then pass it on to the patients. So there's a very high frequency of people in extended care facilities and nursing homes who are getting the virus. And we're now seeing an increase in people between the ages of 20 and 30 and 40 because they're socializing too much. They're having parties, maturity parties, go to the bars, go to the beaches.
Right.
And some of the protests that have been going on because of the racial issues in the US, there are crowds that are close together, not being far enough apart and not wearing masks. So the frequency is increasing again in some areas, some cities. It's a real problem. People who are most susceptible with regard to serious illness are people who have underlying problems. They have hypertension, they have cardiovascular disease, they might have diabetes, they're obese, they don't exercise, they don't have good diets. And these people are dying at a high frequency, unfortunately. But it's also killing young children and young people as well. We unfortunately are doing so much research so quickly, we just don't all have all the answers we need. And every week, the story seems to change a little bit as to what's going on. A complicated problem, a serious problem.
Thank you for your clear and crystal clear reply on the question 1. Let's look at the number 2. The question number 2 is about, based on all these indicated health problems, what is the mechanism leading to the occurrence of these mentioned health problems?
Endothelial dysfunction is very common. Patients with hypertension, diabetes, atherosclerosis, and obesity, and probably tobacco use, have blood vessels that don't make enough nitric oxide. That's been demonstrated. They don't make enough nitric oxide because of several problems. They make another arginine product called asymmetric dimethylarginine, which is a competitive inhibitor to block arginine binding to the nitric oxide synthase catalytic site. It's a competitive inhibitor. If you increase the concentration of arginine, you can overcome that inhibition. So patients with these disorders make a lot of inhibitor to block the formation of nitric oxide. And you can overcome that inhibition by giving more arginine supplementation. We also know that patients with these disorders have a lot of reactive oxygen species. They oxidize the cofactors that are required to help the enzyme make nitric oxide from arginine. You oxidize those cofactors, they're no longer helpful. In fact, the enzyme doesn't make nitric oxide, it now makes superoxide, which scavenges the nitric oxide to form peroxynitrite, which is very toxic. So we're beginning to understand the biochemistry of erectile dysfunction, endothelial dysfunction. Arginine helps, antioxidants help.
Yeah, we know that lack of regular exercise and of course not eating a healthy lifestyle, these are all the problems that will contribute to my question number 2. Now let's continue to number 3. Dr. Murad, with these mentioned health problems, are there published studies on nitric oxide that show any improvement to these health problems? How could nitric oxide help in this situation?
There have been some studies with nitric oxide in the laboratory. We know that it kills bacteria, many viruses, including the coronavirus. It's toxic. If you expose the coronavirus in cultures to nitric oxide, within 30 seconds or a minute, they kill the virus. The virus is dead. There have now been some studies in animals. I think there have been studies in pigs to show that pigs that are given the virus can be treated with nitric oxide agents and it decreases the infection in pigs. Now there are going to be human studies starting to see if nitric oxide has a benefit with patients who have the virus. We think it might help, but those studies are just getting started. It'll be months before we have the answer. Nitric oxide is a very unique molecule. There are many, many messengers that are produced in the body. Neurotransmitters, hormones, growth factors, cytokines, chemokines. And these messengers, when they bind to their target cell, increase the production of an intracellular second messenger. The first second messenger was discovered by my mentor, cyclic AMP, Earl Sutherland, in 1957. I worked on cyclic AMP for 10 years, and then I switched to cyclic GMP as I left my training to go to the University of Virginia, and that led to the discovery of nitric oxide in 1976 and 77. So I've been working in messengers for 60 years. And I've worked with nitric oxide for more than 40 years. And it's a unique molecule. Today, our first publication with nitric oxide and the discovery was 1957, 1977, 1978. Today, there are 160,000 research papers on nitric oxide. It's incredible. It's amazing what it does. We know that the nitric oxide signaling pathway talks to the immunological pathway. They communicate with each other. If you don't make enough nitric oxide, you don't make an immunologic pathway, antibodies, and activate T cells to handle problems, disease, and infections. And that's why people now are becoming interested in the possibility of nitric oxide relating to the coronavirus. It'll enhance the immunological response, we think. In immunology, we've learned is very, very important to prevent infections, prevent cancer. It does a lot of good stuff. And if you don't have nitric oxide regulating the pathway, you have a compromised immune system, and that's not good.
Wow, it's really interesting. The way you explain about NO is really beneficial to a lot of people. Let's continue question number 4. Other than a nitric oxide supplement, what are other daily food and dietary intake that Dr. Feried Murad recommends in order to reduce the risk of the mentioned health problems? And how could these types of food help?
Many foods contain nitrite and nitrate. For example, there is a transporter in your salivary glands that takes up nitrate out of your blood and puts it in the saliva. The saliva in your mouth interacts with the bacteria, it gets reduced to nitrite. You swallow the nitrite in your stomach, which is acidic, it's converted to nitric oxide. So the salivary glands are talking to the stomach to protect the lining to prevent erosion and peptic ulcers. There are other ways to do this besides nitrite and nitrate, and that's providing substrates for the enzyme, and some of them are in foods. For example, leafy vegetables, spinach, kale, broccoli, have lots of agents that help make nitric oxide. They have nitrite and nitrate in them, and they have antioxidants in them. Pomegranate has antioxidants. Watermelon has a source of nitrite, nitrate, and arginine. So there are foods that can substitute for what we're doing with a nutritional supplement, but people don't buy those foods, particularly young people and older people, because they eat fast food and they destroy their glucose and lipids, and they have all sorts of problems, diabetes, atherosclerosis, etc. And if they were to eat properly, they probably wouldn't need supplements. But because they're not eating properly and they don't exercise enough, supplements will be beneficial. But diet is important as well. By understanding the enzymes and how it converts the substrate L-arginine, an essential amino acid, our body makes our L-arginine, an amino acid, but it doesn't make enough. So we need it as a nutritional supplement in addition to our diet. And if you don't eat the right diets, you don't get enough arginine or nitrite or nitrate that's converted to nitric oxide. So supplements are beneficial. The right foods are beneficial. Vegetables, green vegetables, watermelon, pomegranate. These have important substances that help produce more nitric oxide in the body. And that's what I help companies do, like yours, to develop products so the body can make more nitric oxide and be beneficial. Okay? The antioxidants, vitamin C, vitamin E, CoQ10, resveratrol, are important because they support the cofactors for the enzyme that makes nitric oxide, the nitric oxide synthase. That enzyme converts L-arginine to nitric oxide, but it needs helpers, helper molecules. We call them cofactors. And if those cofactors are oxidized, the enzyme doesn't make nitric oxide, it makes superoxide, which is a scavenger and sucks up the nitric oxide to make a very toxic molecule, peroxynitrite, which kills proteins and enzymes. So that's why with supplements with L-arginine, we add a variety of antioxidants. And that helps the enzyme then make more nitric oxide. And that's the basis of the formulas. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator. That's how we discovered it. It relaxes smooth muscle in the airways, smooth muscle in the intestine, smooth muscle in the blood vessels. It makes cyclic GMP from the enzyme guanylate cyclase that converts GTP to cyclic GMP. Nitric oxide activates that enzyme, the soluble isoform of guanylate cyclase, to make NO. It makes cyclic, NO activates the enzyme to make cyclic GMP, which then activates proteins to phosphorylate them and govern their activity. And when proteins are phosphorylated, if they're enzymes, many of them become activated. And you manage then insulin secretion, growth hormone secretion, androgen production in the testes, estrogen production in the ovary. Most of these hormones are regulated by cyclic nucleotides, cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, and nitric oxide. Yeah, beetroots have nitrite, nitrate. They have various metals, manganese, iron, potassium. They also contain vitamin C and glutathione. These are important antioxidants that help make nitric oxide. Pomegranate has a lot of polyphenols to help make nitric oxide. They're antioxidants. Yeah, it's a tomato extract that also has antioxidants. Yeah. So there are many fruits and vegetables that are very beneficial, is what we're saying. Watermelon, beet extract, cherry extract, they're all very important. Spinach. But because people aren't eating those things enough, or they can't afford them, a lot of poor people that don't eat properly, and young people don't eat properly because they eat in fast food restaurants. So nutritional supplements are important.
I think now a lot of people will understand pomegranate, why beetroots, as what you have explained, Dr. Feried Murad. That was a fantastic overview of the ingredients. Let's continue our question number 5. Would Dr. Feried Murad recommend to the public to consume a dietary supplement product for long-term usage, such as beef fuel, that includes the combination of the foods mentioned by you just now above and discussed in the virtual conference? And what are the long-term health benefits from taking such supplements along with the healthy eating patterns that are also recommended by you?
Well, it's going to control cardiovascular function. It's going to prevent hypertension. It's going to control, if you're pre-diabetic, it's going to promote insulin secretion. So there are a lot of benefits for taking it. And I and many of my friends and some of my relatives have been taking arginine supplements for many years. Is an L-arginine nutritional product with a mixture of antioxidants that's very beneficial, and I can recommend it. Of all the arginine products out there, and there are many in many countries, I think this is the best product out there today. So it's very helpful. It's a good product, it's safe, and there have been many arginine products on the market for many years. They have been safe with no problems, and people seem to believe that it's helping them. They have more energy. There have been young athletes taking an L-arginine supplement. They can perform more aggressively. They win more athletic programs. So it helps exercise, it helps performance. And I think we could probably even generate products, nutritional products for athletes. And I can tell you there's some athletes that take mixtures of antioxidants already, some of the professional players. But you can't just take the supplement. You have to exercise. You have to be healthy. You can't be overweight. You got to eat the right foods, lots of vegetables, lots of green spinach, which has nitrite and nitrate. So good diet, exercise, don't get obese. Then your immune system will function better and you can really work against some of these infections. And we know nitric oxide will kill viruses, bacteria, and fungi. And there are products on the market treating patients with all sorts of microbial infections. And some now with the coronavirus are getting started.
Good. Come to the last question, which is number 6. Of course, we appreciate we have more time with you. We also appreciate that we can have more questions with you, but time is limited, I know. You're such a busy people. So let's talk about the last question. Last but not least, we wish to ask Dr. Murad to give us some word of wisdom. Please enlighten us and to advise us and our audience on how we may all keep healthy in this time.
Well, as I said previously, it's important to eat a good balanced diet with vegetables, leafy vegetables, fruits, get a sufficient amount of sleep, get as much exercise as you can, and be optimistic. And I think that the B-Fill supplement to help make more nitric oxide is very, very beneficial. And we know that from all the biochemistry and physiology that we and many other laboratories have already done. It's a good product.
Thank you, Dr. Ferid Murad, for your presence here today. It is indeed a very enlightening and knowledge-enriching session. We appreciate the valuable insights you have provided to all of us on how to stay healthy, which is very important at this moment of time, especially everybody are under the fear conditions. To pay more attention to our diet and supplementation program, and especially to take care of our own heart, strengthen the immune function, and general overall health. I believe whatever you shared just now will definitely help the mankind even further and beyond. Thank you very much, wholeheartedly from B International.